Hey, and welcome back to Podcasting for Experts. I'm Jess, co-founder here at Pristine Podcast, and this is season 4, episode 2. And today we're going to be talking about making sure that you are actually generating leads from your podcast, because otherwise it's kind of a pointless activity for you to produce a podcast episode for your business every single week if you're not getting any results from it. So let's dive in.
You're listening to Podcasting for Experts, with honest conversations about using podcasting as a tool to grow your reach, increase your audience, make a positive impact on the world, and most importantly, to get paid for your efforts. I'm your host, Jess, and we are Pristine Podcasts. Let's talk podcasting.
So I'm kind of going to assume that when you started your show, you thought, okay, well, I'm going to make some really good, helpful content that people will love every single week. People will listen to my show, and then they will know that I'm good at what I do and that I know a lot of things, and then they will queue up to want to work with me, right? And then over time, you kind of figure out that that sort of doesn't really seem to be the case. So today, I want to talk about some signs that your podcast really isn't doing as much work for you and for your business as it really should, for the amount of time, for the amount of effort, and potentially for the amount of money that you're putting into it. Because, if you're having someone edit it, if you have a VA that's helping you put it out every single week, or if you have someone for like podcast management, that costs a lot of money and it has to bring something back for your business. Yes, podcasting is great. It's fun. It's great for networking, but you also want to see results. So let's talk about it. So if this is a problem that you have in your business, then you will probably find that you end up creating content every single week and potentially for quite some time. You'll find that, your download numbers are growing, or at least they were growing steadily up to a point. People are leaving you positive reviews. People are sending you messages to say that, hey, I've just found your podcast and it's amazing. But what you're not seeing is a noticeable impact on your business. So despite your download numbers going up and up and up and up, which means that you're reaching more and more new people, plus you're retaining your existing listeners, but you are still getting a similar amount of leads as you actually did even before you had a podcast. And it is not really the case that people are queuing up to work with you either. And now I have a hint for you. If you only have a feeling about whether or not your podcast is doing anything for you and your business, then it is time to get some KPI in place that you can measure that tell you the success of your podcast, okay? KPIs stand for key performance indicators, and they are just some key numbers that you need to keep an eye on to make sure that your podcast is actually bringing you results. And then if you have those KPI and you're measuring them every single week or every single month, depending on what makes sense, then you know whether or not your podcast is doing something for your business instead of going on feeling, because this feeling can actually be very misleading. So I've been in a position before where I was working with one of my clients, and my client was having the feeling that their ads weren't really converting at the rate that they're supposed to be converting. And she was feeling like she's losing money left, right, and center. So she was getting super antsy about things. But when you actually pull out all of the data, when you pull out all of the conversion rates, when you pull out the ad spend versus earnings, then you actually see that the ads are profitable and doing their thing, okay? So going on feeling, I feel like today the world looks a little bit worse, so everything must be looking a little bit worse, including my podcast. It doesn't really help you. You need numbers, you need facts. And whenever we make decisions about our business, we make decisions on facts, not on today I feel like this. Today I feel really good, so I'm going to spend extra money on this that I shouldn't be spending. And today I feel really bad, so I'm going to turn all the ads off, These are not the kind of decisions that we want to end up making in our business ever, okay? So when we can see that our download numbers are going up and people are leaving positive reviews and people are loving the show and people are sending messages and saying good things about our work and that they love it and whatnot, but we're not seeing really a noticeable increase in our bottom line in the business, the first thing that we always need to do is we need to actually dig in to find the actual problem. So there's a number of things that I'm going to want you to check if you have this problem right now. So the first thing is I would want to gather information about who is listening to your show, okay? Because maybe you're getting loads of downloads, but the people that are listening to your show are not actually your ideal customer. So you need to check that. So some platforms that you can host your podcast on have more detailed audience reporting. So they might be able to give you a better breakdown. If you normally work with, I don't know, female business owners, but 80% of your downloads are men, then you have an issue because they're not the people that you are actually able to sell to thereafter. So they're getting a lot of value from their show and they're leaving you positive reviews and stuff, but they're not actually the people that are your target customer. So that is a bit of an issue. If you have a podcast community, you can survey them. If you have a paid podcast on another platform, you might be able to survey those people. If you also publish content on YouTube, then you can check your YouTube audience reporting. You can also use Google Analytics to see who lands on your podcast show note pages and find more about people in that way. If you have a lot of reviews, you can see who is leaving those reviews and what they are saying. So you might be able to see that people are saying things like, hey, I use that for my chiropractor business, but you're not talking to chiropractors, So there's information that you can gather from the reviews without knowing exactly who wrote them. And then you can actually take a cold, hard look at your content and think about whether that content is really attracting people that are your target customer, or whether it's attracting people that don't earn enough yet, or whether it's attracting people that are at an earlier stage in business than the ones that you normally work with, etc., etc. So that is something else that I would want to look at. Okay, so after you've got kind of a clearer picture on your listeners from any source that you can get your hands on, the second thing that I need you to check is whether or not those people that are listening to your podcast are actually going to any of your freebies, lead magnets, downloads, content upgrades, whatever you want to call them. So if you have no way of tracking this right now, then you need to work on getting proper tracking set up so that you can see this. So I recommend that from your podcast, you always send people either to a separate tracked link, or you're sending people to a completely separate opt-in page that is set up for your podcast listeners so that you can see how they behave. So if you have done that in the past, then you are able to actually measure the number of people that land on that specific opt-in page. So you can then say, okay, so in the last 3 months, I've had this number of estimated unique listeners, and that's always only an estimate, and the number will vary from platform to platform. But I can see that only 6% of those estimated unique listeners actually landed on my landing page in the last 3 months. So, hey, I'm getting all these downloads, but only 6% of, the people that potentially downloaded my episode actually checked out my lead magnet. So the third thing that you can check here after you know the percentage of people that you're taking from your podcast to your actual opt-in page for your lead magnet is tracking the people through to sale. So you can set up Google Analytics conversions to see if the people that are opting in to your podcast actually are becoming customers afterwards, and what is the value of those customers. Okay. So if you do that, then you now have a separate picture. How many people are downloading the episodes? How many people are going to check out the lead magnet? And do people that do sign up for the lead magnet become customers at the end? Yes or no? Okay. The other thing that you can then measure if you have a separate opt-in page for everyone that you're sending from your podcast to this opt-in page is the conversion rate. So you can basically see, okay, in March, I've had 270 people view my opt-in page, the link to which I only give out on the podcast. It's hidden from search engine results. So nobody, unless they've listened to a podcast episode, knows what this link is and can get it that way. I've had 270 visitors, but only, 20 people have signed up for my lead magnet. What is the conversion rate on that? On average for warm traffic, If the lead magnet is really good, I would expect there to be a 30 to 50% conversion rate for something that people really do want, particularly if they've come from a podcast where they've had to go through a decent amount of effort to get to your opt-in page. If they then don't opt in, you really have a problem on that opt-in page. And then if you also offer that same lead magnet from other sources, so for example, you share it on social media, you have it linked up on your website, check the opt-in rate when people come from other sources. So if the opt-in rate on your podcast lead magnet page is worse than on the page where people come from other sources, then it is not to do with the page in itself so much. It is to do with the people who are landing on that page and the fact that what they're being presented with on that page isn't attractive enough, isn't what they were expecting. Or let's take our example again from you've identified that the majority of your podcast listeners are male, but you're a female business owner, and then you have like the whole, I only work with women thing going on your landing page and it's all pink. And then they realize, oh, I don't think this is made for me. And then they will leave. So basically you kind of have a disconnect between the audience that you have on the podcast and where you're actually sending them. Okay. So these are all things that are very important for you to know, because having a feeling about my podcast is a lot of work and it's not getting me any results. And having actual numbers to prove how your page is doing, how your podcast is doing, how many people are even coming to check out your lead magnet, how often have you promoted that lead magnet in the last 3 months, et cetera, et cetera. So getting that data-oriented picture is really going to help you to make bigger decisions. So if you want to get any help with doing this sort of work, then you are welcome to book yourself into a Fix My Damn content session where we design your next 12 weeks of content together, plus comb through all of your existing episodes and put them to work for you. If you want to find out more about this, then you can go to pristinepodcast.com/content. And if you're going to dig through this yourself, then your homework for next week is to basically go and get your numbers and figure out what the hell is going on. And then in the next episode, we will dive in more detail into lead magnets, and we're going to look at what kind of lead magnets might work for your podcast listeners. Okay. So if that's something that interests you and you're listening later, then that is season 4, episode 2. As always, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you for the next episode. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. If you want to finally get your podcast listeners to convert to leads and sales, then don't forget to check out the Fix My Damn content session. You can find out more at pristinepodcast.com/fixmydamncontent. We would love to support you.